What's up, everybody? How was week 10 for you? Hope it was awesome. Thank you for tuning in here on YouTube, youtube.com/fantasy football today. Hit the subscribe button and let's get started. All right, let's wrap up week 10. Already a mess up, one sentence in. That's not boding well. Adam Azer, Dave Richard, Heath Cummings talking about the Sunday action here. The Aaron Jones injury. Christian McCaffrey probably going to be okay, but he left early as well. And we have more exciting things to talk about as well, like big performances. Oh, Russell Wilson's back. No more pin. Time to win. Aaron Rodgers is back. Great stuff. Dave, I think you have a mathematical trivia question for us.
Oh, and boy, is it a great trivia question, everybody. If you had Aaron Rodgers and Carson Wentz and Russell Wilson, and let's just throw in Matt Ryan as well, you still wouldn't have as many fantasy points as...
Can I say that now, Adam?
Okay, so it's Matt Ryan, Carson Wentz, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, all added together is less than
Cam Newton.
No,
I don't think so.
Nope.
Kirk Cousins.
If we take Russ out of there, then it's the same as Cam Newton.
Kirk Cousins.
Nope. You guys are
really
thinking about mediocre quarterbacks. You got to start thinking bigger. You got to start thinking stronger. You got to start thinking about the greats in the National Football League. You've got to think about Trevor Siemian. You got to think about legends. When it comes to fantasy football, you've got to think of Mike McCorkle Jones.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Mac Jones.
Mac is pretty good, too.
We've got a believe it or not about that coming up. The closest believe it or not poll I've ever run.
Oh, I know it's going to be Mac Jones is the best rookie quarterback, right?
No, not just that.
Okay, great. Looking forward to it. Who's the biggest winner, Heath? Biggest winner in week 10?
Oh, I wasn't ready for that question.
The winners you gave me were
it's a bad question because I went with a little bit of different angle with my winners this week. But I will say
nobody. By the
Cam Newton, the fact that he gets to go back to Carolina and score touchdowns on his first 2 plays with the Panthers, and they just whip Arizona to put Carolina, I think, right now in the playoffs. And now he gets to take over as the starting quarterback. Like, how happy do you have to be for that guy?
They did not commit to that, by the way. They did not commit to Cam starting next week.
They didn't commit to it, but literally Matt Rule said that that's where they're at.
Okay.
So yeah,
it's great. And he scored a rushing touchdown and threw a touchdown. He had 4 pass attempts. I guess little credit to PJ Walker. Probably played it pretty conservatively. Almost everything went to Christian McCaffrey. But
the Cardinals quit early.
Yes.
Like really, really early. Their coaches and everybody they gave up very fast.
All right, big winner is Cam Newton. Dave, who's the biggest loser?
The biggest loser might not even be somebody on my list. I might say that the biggest loser, I mean, you could like throw a rock and hit a quarterback. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say Russell Wilson was a humongous loser. Coming back from the hand surgery maybe a little bit too soon, going up against this Packers defense that doesn't have a lot of like big name marquee talent, but they are just scheming up against everybody and really limiting the big plays. And you saw it in Tyler Lockett's stat line. I don't know how people are still going to continue to start Tyler Lockett, but man, what a mess. DK Metcalf's stat line stunk, and Russ was just off. He was brutal.
He does not look like he's okay. I don't remember seeing him throw the ball and misfiring like that often. And he's never been shut out for an entire game. So I think we can say it's unprecedented. No. He does not look like he's okay.
And it's Arizona next week at home. So I don't know if I'm going to feel great starting Russell Wilson next week.
I mean, the biggest loser was probably our friend, and I won't name any names, in our Dynasty League, who faced a team that sat Michael Carter and CeeDee Lamb and Tony Pollard and played someone on a bye illegally. And
you should kick him out of the league.
Still is going to win by 40 points. Congratulations, Dave, on your 4th win in the YOLO League.
For God's sake. You obviously have a good team.
The king of tanking incorrectly. I cannot tank. It can't be done for me. Like Heath, you're the god when it comes to tanking. When I try to play and I set a lineup and I'm really trying to win, I lose. And when I start Azeez Ojulari on his bye week, and PJ Walker at quarterback. How much did I spend the fab? Like a third of my fab on PJ Walker because I'm trying to tank. And I figure, well, he's going to be the quarterback for Carolina the rest of the way. That's out the freaking window. And I win against a team that was in playoff contention.
Are you not in playoff contention?
Yeah, Dave's a half game out.
Technically, I am, right?
Yeah, good. All right, so Dave's the biggest loser, I guess. Join our Facebook group. Search Fantasy Football Today on Facebook or click on the link in the description to chat with other fantasy fans, ask start, sit questions, talk through trade ideas, and much, much more. Our Facebook group is Fantasy Football Today. You should probably be able to remember that. And we also have the link in the episode description. Just to give a quick peek at waivers, obviously in super shallow leagues, A.J. Dillon, 86%. But how about Deontay Foreman, 7% rostered?
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately did not work at the goal line. That was still Adrian Peterson. But it's probably
it was Peterson on the final drive too, wasn't it?
I don't know.
The clock-killing drive. I know he picked up a first down on that drive.
Yes, exactly. I did see that. But I don't know. I mean, I can't imagine I would not pick up Deontay Foreman if I could.
I can't imagine I would not pick up. I'm trying to deconstruct that sentence.
Oh, I can't imagine I wouldn't.
Don't even try.
Why? Okay, fine. I imagine I'd pick up Deontay Foreman.
I would pick up Deontay Foreman.
There you go.
Yeah.
Grammarly.
He looks way better than Adrian Peterson. He did last week too. But I'm a little nervous that he's there between the 20s running back.
Is there anyone else off waivers that comes to mind?
Rhamondre Stevenson.
Yeah, let me check his roster percentage.
51% as of this afternoon.
Holy cow.
Dan freaking Arnold. Like,
can we
get that guy to 65% roster rate?
That's his yards every game.
And I tweeted it. I had this feeling that Dan Arnold was going to be better than Freiermuth rest of season.
Uh-huh.
And
did
now
you know that he's going to be better than Hockenson rest of season?
I don't understand T.J. Hockenson at all, and I didn't even like T.J. Hockenson.
Yeah, pretty bad. No catches for him or Gesicki this week. And it's funny because I can't really fault them, but on the live stream this morning, Frank and Chris were both saying how they got like 17 deep in their tight end rankings, thinking tight end's not bad, and. You know what? I mean, Conklin came through with 2 touchdowns. Dan Arnold was good. But
Hunter Henry was awesome.
Hunter Henry was, 4 targets, 2 touchdowns.
I fully expect this is going to be Tyler Higbee week now after what we saw today.
Will it be
Could
Kelsey
be.
or Waller week?
Could be
All
them
right.
too. How about one target for Hockenson?
Yeah, wild.
Good night.
Okay, so anyway, news and notes. Christian McCaffrey has a hamstring thing. They were crushing him, so they took him out of the game. Probably okay, but maybe ease off a little bit on him. Aaron Jones left. I don't know if it was late third or early fourth quarter, but he might have a sprained MCL, which would be a few weeks, I think. And you know what it is. It's A.J. Dillon. Is there another running back you think that would step up, be relevant?
I don't think so.
Yeah, A.J. Dillon could be the number 1 running back in fantasy for the next few weeks. You never know.
That's a good voice crack there. Yeah, it's a believe it or not later. So we'll couch that.
Another Green Bay injury, Rashawn Gary, linebacker. He left in the fourth quarter. Jordan Howard left, but he came back. CeeDee Lamb left with an arm contusion. I have to imagine the score had something to do with him leaving the game.
Mm-hmm.
Baker Mayfield left. He's expected to play as of right now next week, but he left. He's got Detroit next week. Jared Goff has a strained oblique, and he's at Cleveland next week. TJ Watt knee injury, Chase Young knee injury, 2 of the best pass rushers with big injuries, and it might be worse for Young. I mean, is it fair to say it looks worse for Young than Watt? Yeah,
but
Watt
both
was
not good.
Still walking around after, but Young looked really bad.
Young was on crutches.
Right. And it was actually just a bad day for Pittsburgh. In addition to Watt, Joe Hayden left in the first half with a foot sprain, and both of their starting guards have ankle injuries. And that's Minka Fitzpatrick.
There goes that offensive line.
Yeah, right. Minka Fitzpatrick got hurt, but I think he's okay. Meanwhile, for Washington, in addition to Chase Young, you have McLaurin leave and come back. Ricky Seals-Jones, though, he limped off in the second quarter, and we might get Logan Thomas next week anyway. Colt McCoy left. Bud Dupree, Tennessee linebacker, he left in the first quarter. Running back Ty Montgomery for the Saints, he left in the first quarter. Quentin Nelson and Darius Leonard both left with injuries. Leonard, I'm pretty sure, came back.
I think Nelson did too.
Okay. Phew.
I think.
Sure. He did.
Oh, here's a big one. Vita Vea for the Bucs. And we already saw them with a very good run defense last year without Vita Vea for most of the year, but not the super elite, ridiculously good run defense that they are with Vita Vea. He is one of the best run stuffers in football, and he was carted off on the final drive of the game, which was 19 plays, 80 yards, 10 minutes, and 26 seconds. A touchdown for Antonio Gibson. That was the longest drive of the year in terms of time. 10-minute and 26-second drive for Washington.
It was a total Tom Brady. Like Brady has done that drive so many times to opposing quarterbacks who just sat on the sidelines and waited to see if they get the ball back, and they never did. And he did it to Brady.
And Dallas Goedert left with a concussion early in the game. Here's a stat that's just going to make you cringe. The game may have ended up similar count, but through 3 quarters, I heard on the broadcast, Teddy Bridgewater through 3 quarters threw 2 passes that went more than 10 yards in the air.
I bet I have that info right now.
It's just, you can't have good wide receivers like that for fantasy. Seattle and Green Bay played the lowest scoring first half of the season. It was 3-0. DeAndre Swift had his first game of the season with fewer than 4 catches. Must have had a bad game, right? And
that's a strange way to frame that.
Yeah. And Jonathan Taylor has 110 total yards or more in 7 straight games. He's good. Okay, here's a segment before we get to your winners and losers called, Well, I didn't see that coming. Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson combined for 14 points in a 17-0 win. Heath, I didn't see that coming.
Yeah, I think I was the low guy on them, and I was worried, but I didn't see anything like this. I thought Rodgers was a lot better than Wilson. Rodgers probably deserved like a 21 or a 22 on the day in terms of fantasy points. If we were grading the day for quarterbacks and giving them fantasy points that way, which some weeks feels like it would be more fun. Wilson just looked awful for almost all of it. And there were several times when he threw to Lockett and Lockett didn't have the type of separation that he often does. And then there were other times where Lockett was wide open and it took Wilson 2 seconds to throw the ball to him. And then all of a sudden there was a defender there. DK wasn't himself. I think Rodgers will be a low end quarterback, number 1 quarterback next week or borderline. I'm actually a little bit worried about Wilson.
Okay.
Yep.
You know, what's interesting. I mentioned it on the NFC home game or not NFC home game preview. Sorry, that the concern I had for the Seahawks was time of possession because they were the worst in the league. And Green Bay, it dominates in that. Green Bay had the ball for 39 minutes. You still got 40 pass attempts, though, from Russell Wilson, so you can't complain. But 21 minutes, basically, of possession. And that's something you have to keep in mind for anybody going against the Packers. We have to take their defense pretty seriously right now. Going into this game, they were giving up like 16 points a game in their last 6, something crazy. They were on fire, and it was just, the competition. Mahomes was bad, and they didn't, and Kyler played without Hopkins, but this looks like, I don't know, is this a tough matchup? Is this a sit matchup for any marginal player?
I think it's a sit matchup for big play receivers. We've seen it so often this year where guys who aren't promised a ton of targets are probably not going to break away for a long catch. It's just the style of the defense that they play. I'm curious what their pass rush is going to look like next week because it looks like Rashawn Gary is not going to be around. I don't know if you saw that injury, but it was ugly.
Yeah.
And Zadarius Smith is still sidelined. Kenny Clark is still sidelined. I don't believe they had Eric Stokes today. Like, they're missing dudes in the front and back end, and they're still doing a heck of a job.
I beat this drum a lot, but like the Packers were not going to let the Seahawks throw the ball deep. And I don't know why the Seahawks didn't just call a slant to DK Metcalf and then another slant to DK Metcalf and just make them get out of that defense. But they don't do it.
Here's another thing that I didn't see that coming. Antonio Gibson at the third best game of a running back all year against the Bucs. Was not an efficient game. It was 24 carries for 64 yards, but he scored twice, and he was started in 55% of leagues. Antonio Gibson, Dave, didn't see that coming.
Did not. Absolutely thought that Tampa Bay would come off the bye week, play strong defense, play turnover-free football on offense, and not give the ball to Taylor Heineke to run a bunch of long drives And Gibson just was able that the Washington football team stayed in the game. That allowed Gibson to rack up a lot of carries. And look, in the range of outcomes, this absolutely was a possibility, but I think it was one that no one in their right mind would have said, definitely going to happen. You're going to see 2 touchdowns from Gibson. It's just one of those things, man. You're just not going to ever look at the Bucs defense and say that's a beatable run defense. And the thing is that next week's not an easy matchup either. They've got Carolina. Now you'll feel a lot better about Gibson against Carolina, but it's not like you can look at him and say, all right, not only is he going to score, but he's going to get 90 yards on top of it. I think he's going to be at best a low end number 2 running back next week.
Yeah, Heath, I think he was one of your winners. And the good thing is he comes off the bye and he gets 22 carries, and Jarrett Patterson has a very small role. The bad thing is, again, he's not super involved in the passing game. And if they're not controlling the clock and winning, then, you could go right back to the same problems that we have with Antonio Gibson. So somebody said in the chat just now, is this Gibson takeoff? What do you think rest of season for Gibson?
I don't think it's Gibson takeoff. It's more like Gibson saved from all despair, because his 3 games prior to this had been 30 to 40% of the snaps. And I was genuinely concerned that he was just like Devin Singletary territory. And so this gives me confidence to put him back. And no offense to Devin Singletary, he had another nice game today. This gives me confidence him in that 20-ish range.
Okay. Let me fly through the rest of these so we can get to your winners and losers. I didn't see that coming. Tom Brady against the team that gives up the most fantasy points to quarterbacks. 23 of 34, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 220 yards. One of the interceptions, not really his fault, but kind of a sloppy game, and 16 fantasy points for Brady. Heath, any concerns here?
Much like I would say about Lamar Jackson on Thursday night, every single quarterback is having one of these games where they lose to a terrible team and don't play as well as they're supposed to. And it's nice that you got 16 points instead of what some of these guys have given us when they've had their bad games and given you 2
single digits.
Yeah.
Or 0 in the case of Matt Ryan.
Right.
Today.
So we'll take it and we'll move on to the next big game.
He's currently a top 10 fantasy quarterback this week with 2 games to go.
Oh my God. That's wild. If we have time, I don't know if anybody cares. So maybe we'll save it for the very end of the show, but Trager, I don't know if you're in the June Magazine League. Dave and I are having just a race to the bottom this week. I started Rodgers and he started Ryan, and our teams are just so week 10. It's a funny matchup.
We played somebody in the For the People League who started Wilson and Rodgers against us.
Oh, what, are we going to win?
We matched them with Lamar Jackson and Taylor Heineke.
We win that matchup.
It's a complete coin flip right now. We were supposed to get blown out this week, but it's a coin flip.
All right, let's go. Let's finish. Okay, DeAndre Swift. Didn't see that coming.
He crushed me, Adam. Hold on a second.
I know.
It's a race to the bottom. It's so close. You're up 25 points with Darrell Henderson.
I never said it was close. I just said it was a race to the bottom.
I was so mad about this game because DeAndre Swift was like, obviously the touchdowns were goofy, but he was having this awesome game. I think he had like 120 yards on his first 18 carries or something. And it was really good. And they gave it to him 20 more times. And all of a sudden he's bad again because his rushing average went to crap. Dan Campbell took over the offense. Like, I think that's an underrated thing. I think he was calling plays today.
He was calling plays, and the tight end, like he's a former tight end. And their tight end had 1 target, no catches.
Yeah, he took the reins away from Anthony Lynn, and I mean, success. They got a tie. That might be something to watch for, though, with the running back targets and Dan Campbell calling plays, because one of the appeals of DeAndre Swift was the Austin Eckler, Alvin Kamara role. That role didn't exist in Dan Campbell's debut as a play caller. I don't know if it was his debut. Did he ever call plays before, Dave?
I doubt it. He was a tight ends coach.
I don't think he ever did. I don't think he was ever a
He had an interim situation for
in Miami. He was the interim coach. I don't think he was calling the plays there.
Well, it is interesting. I mean, you get 33 carries. I don't care if he doesn't. First of all, they weren't trailing in this game, so
their offensive line with Decker back,
no Decker,
was really good, especially in the first half. Then everybody just got so tired and was soaking wet, and it was a miserable, miserable overtime to watch. My son was cheering so hard because he saw Dan Campbell cry after the one of the terrible losses, and he really wanted the Lions to get their victory. And he was like, he's not a Lions fan. He's never cheered for the Lions in his life, but he was sulking after the tie because they didn't get a win.
Are you kidding? Lions fans were cheering.
Yeah, Dan Campbell.
They're out of the 0-17 hole. They won't be the first team to go 0-17.
Okay, so let's get to your winners and losers. Heath, you got oh no, wait, Dave. Dave, you have Rhamondre Stevenson, DeVonta Smith, and Miles Sanders. A winner without even playing. But Rhamondre Stevenson, great game, 20 carries, 100 yards, 2 touchdowns, 4 catches against Cleveland, who had a great run defense coming into the game, and he really carved him up. What is his role if Damian Harris is back?
So I think that there will be a decent split between the two of them on rushing downs when they do come back. But I wonder if they figure out a way to work Stevenson into some semblance of a passing role, because he can do that as well. And I think he looks better than Damian Harris. I know that sounds wild, but I really think that he's got that in him to be not necessarily to overtake Damian Harris, but we know that Harris has had injury problems in the past, has had fumbling problems in the past. And at least for one game, he showed the Patriots coaching staff that he can be a reliable lead guy.
Yeah. Okay. So who do you think will be
absolutely rosterable? He should be rostered rest of season. He could matter quite a bit.
Who's better rest of season, guys? Harris or Stevenson? Was that your answer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Completely honest.
It could be Stevenson. It really could be because of what he can do as a pass
completely
catcher.
honest. I do think this helps confirm the theory that if you have hair that's coming out of the back of your helmet, it looks like you run harder than other guys.
I thought about that with someone today. I remembered you saying that, and I think it's true. I really,
Really?
I don't remember who it was.
Doesn't work for Ronald Jones.
I think it was Alexander Madison. It's like,
Yeah.
These guys look fast when they have hair flying around. All right, Dave. DeVonta Smith, 6 catches. What was it? 4 for 66 and 2 on 6
touchdowns. Yeah,
what a touchdown catch! Holy cow!
The first one, the contested catch touchdown, was awesome, and that's the kind of thing that I've been looking for from DeVonta Smith for a while. Everybody should have. We should go back to having confidence in starting Smith as at least a number 3 receiver. And maybe if he can continue to put up performances like this, work his way into the top 20 to 24-ish at wide receiver. We know he's a talented guy. He's just got a quarterback that has some accuracy issues. And he's on a team that's really still continuing to find its way to run the football. In the second half of this game, they were running it like crazy because they could.
Do you know how many times Jalen Hurts threw in the second half?
I'm sure there will be games soon. In the second half, my guess is like 5.
I think 3. He had
so I overrated
3 pass attempts in the second half.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because
I don't think that's going to be how they operate every single week, though. Like I talked about it coming into this game. This week, it turned out to work out. It worked out that way. There's going to be opponents in their future. I'll bring up their schedule.
New Orleans next week.
Right. So there's one where they're going to need to throw a little bit.
Well, that's the thing we'll find out next week. Is this a taking advantage of what the defense gives you, or if the other team can't score enough points and you don't have to throw, you won't? Because I don't think New Orleans is going to score enough points to put them in a position where they need to score game flow wise.
What does it mean for DeVonta Smith, in your opinion?
My believe it or not, for this game was DeVonta Smith, the top 20 wide receiver rest of season. And it was about 50-50 in the poll, I think. And I don't believe that because I don't think there's going to be enough volume.
That's an issue, especially when you look at their schedule for the rest of the season. We talked about the Eagles, and this is why Miles Sanders was a winner for me, is because their schedule rest of season is pretty great and they're running the ball well.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they're both winners. I think that when they do throw, it's going to be DeVonta Smith who's going to be a primary target for him. And if he can continue to win downfield, he's going to be that exact type of splash receiver that's perfect as a number 3 guy.
I think they're so similar to last year's Ravens. If Dallas Goedert is healthy, it's a quarterback who I think 23 pass attempts is probably more realistic than 15, right? So it's 23 pass attempts. and a whole bunch of running, and then you've got really only 2 guys getting the targets. And if Hurts can be good enough, then they can come through. But even when you saw, like with Marquise Brown last year, even in his good stretches, he still had a lot of really low yardage games, and he needed touchdowns to be saved.
Right.
So, yeah. All right.
But he was getting them. He was a red zone target for him. Remember, they changed his role at this point last year. I can't say for sure that the Eagles are going to do anything close to that with DeVonta Smith.
Heath, your winners are Cam Newton, Jakobi Meyers. Hey, Jakobi Meyers.
I did it! Down, Jakobi Meyers.
And Antonio Gibson, who we talked about. But
we covered him.
Cam,
I've got to believe it or not on him later anyway, so we can just go. That's just yeah.
Okay.
I think it's just hilarious how we were like infuriated by him last year, and we were kind of celebrating. We were kind of like, wow, he got cut by the Patriots at the beginning of this year. And now that he's back with Carolina, we're all happy for him. And, he scores a touchdown and he threw another touchdown. And like, you can't help but root for him now.
See,
if that's how we
for him all year last year.
Okay. All right. Well, okay. Maybe you were. But like, if he's making us kind of smile a little bit, then what could he be doing to that Panthers team and giving them all kinds of extra energy to go out and play well? And then he's going to be starting for them at quarterback. And I don't think he's going to be like, a super passer or anything like that, but he might end up salvaging their season.
I have no idea who's ever going to win any game, but they've got 3 very winnable games up in their next 3.
Washington, Miami, Atlanta.
Washington. This could be a fun.
Well, I don't know about Miami.
It's true.
Winnable. I didn't say
defense.
Yeah, winnable.
So, okay, Cam, is he a guy that you're picking up in a 1 QB league or just a 2 QB league or super flex?
There's the believe it or not. So yeah.
Hey, you know what? I can't save great content.
Well, I know. Well, I understand.
Okay.
I understand.
Okay.
I'm adding him in a 1 QB. Yes. If I need a quarterback help.
Okay.
I'm especially adding him. I talked about it during the week. If I've got Kyler, if I've got Mahomes, if I've got Hurts, if I'm still starting Wentz, I like his matchups in weeks 12 and 14. I don't necessarily love the one against Miami anymore, but those are matchups that seem kind of favorable for Cam Newton.
Well, I hope it's good for DJ Moore. Another bad game for him, but Cam, it's not like Cam was the quarterback. So Jakobi Meyers, did anything really change, or is he just a winner because he scored? He only had 49 yards.
Winner because he scored.
Okay.
He doesn't going to make you want to start him next week against the Falcons.
I'm not.
No.
I mean,
I'm starting
do I have
running
3 receivers that are better than him?
Isn't that
probably
that would be what determines whether I want to start him or not?
Great insight there.
Well, no, I mean, I have a variety of different teams. And there are certainly teams where there's no chance I'm starting him. But there's a couple. I started Marvin Jones and Jamal Agnew on the same team in 2 different leagues this week. I might think about starting him in those.
Yeah, I got a couple. I got a league like that too.
Okay.
I would kill for Jakobi Meyers.
Thank you.
I started Russell Gage this week. Yeah, that was great. I would start Meyers over him. Okay.
9, 9, 9, 7, 1. Those were his PPR totals until this week when he scored. If he doesn't score this week, it's 8.
Okay, but 7 to 8. If you're, I don't know if it's just you guys, but man, I'm really feeling the crunch right now.
No, the thing is, the good players are not scoring fantasy points, and the bad players are scoring fantasy points in so many different cases. And I didn't have hardly any good teams this week, but I had a whole lot of teams that won because the other team was worse. That's just kind of the state of the game currently. It'll change back.
Okay.
I'm not sure it's going to change back so fast, man. We're getting closer and closer to December, and you know what that usually means.
Winter? Snow?
Lower scoring games.
Oh. All right, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we've got the losers from Dave and Heath. I said from Dave and Heath. We'll be right back.
I missed that part.
All right, we're back on Fantasy Football today. Thanks for being here, everybody, on this Sunday night. If you're watching live, welcome. If you're listening, good stuff. Enjoy your commute. Happy Monday. All right, Heath's losers, Amari Cooper, 4 catches for 51 yards. He still has only 2 catches, 2 games all year with more than 69 yards. Adam Thielen ended up with a decent game, 5 for 65 on 7 targets, but still didn't really come through with a big one. And Zach Moss, he scored, but it was not a good game for him. So who are you most worried about? Cooper, Thielen, Moss?
Moss for sure. Matt Breida was involved in the red zone and in the passing game, and that was not just after it was a blowout. I think he scored their very first touchdown.
He did.
Devin Singletary had a 15-yard carry on the opening drive, and then Matt Breida scored a touchdown to end it, and Zach Moss is still standing on the sideline.
But hold on. I don't think that's surprising because I think Singletary and Moss kind of swap series typically. At least
the Breida touchdown was surprising. He'd been a healthy scratch most of the year.
That's amazing. I mean, the Jets just cannot cover running backs.
Yeah. The thing was, these guys were kind of in a 50-50 split, but we thought Moss got all the red zone work and all the passing work, and so that made him the one that was definitely better. And if he's not getting all the red zone work and all the passing down work, then he's just like Singletary, a flex that you hope scores.
Yeah. Cooper and Thielen, do you still have confidence starting them? Cooper's at Kansas City next week. Thielen is against Green Bay. I mean, we just talked about they're kind of a tough matchup right now, but just and you know the hard part is, Heath, I don't even know if the matchups matter. It's so random when these guys are good. He had a great game with Cooper Rush a few weeks ago, and now he stinks with Dak, so it's frustrating. What do you think about Cooper and Thielen?
Yeah, I thought the Cooper one was more that Gallup was back, and Lamb was the only one who stood out apart from the rest in terms of targets. We've talked about it a lot with this group. The Cowboys do not just consolidate targets to 3 guys. They're going to throw to 6 or 7 different guys. And so with Gallup back, it kind of looks like Dalton Schultz might be droppable and Amari Cooper might be a flex at best. I'll probably start him next week against the Chiefs. Thielen is just like, I think you probably start him in non-PPR just because he scores so often. But in PPR, I'm feeling more like he's a borderline number 3.
Okay. And Schultz I think he should have had a touchdown.
Yeah.
Dak missed him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or they was confused on exactly where he was running. One of the 2.
All right, Dave's losers. TJ Hockenson, the biggest loser of them all, scored as many fantasy points as Matt Ryan. No catches on 1 target. Emmanuel Sanders
scored as many fantasy points as Ben Schrager.
Schrager fumbled. Emmanuel Sanders, 2 catches, 27 yards, and Mike Williams, 4 catches, 33 yards. Mike Williams,
where do you want
piling up the almost touchdowns? Where do you want to start?
One this week? Well, if I told you that Tyler Higbee hadn't scored a touchdown in 7 straight games, you would probably call him at best a low-end starting tight end. But he's at least scored twice in his last 7 games. Hockenson has not. And I almost think it's elementary for defenses to know this guy is a potential weapon for the Lions. I didn't watch closely enough to see if the Steelers were trying to take him away on passing downs. My hunch is that they were, and they were putting pressure on Goff, and the Lions were actually running the ball fairly well in the game. I'm going to be nervous to start him next week. It doesn't matter that the matchup isn't that bad for him. I've got to see what's out there on the waiver wire at tight end before I go to start him at Cleveland. And I know the Browns just gave up 2 touchdowns to Hunter Henry, but I'm not ready to say Hockenson is still a guy that you can set and forget at tight end moving forward.
Well,
started the year hot. Now he's a dud.
Yeah. So a couple things. First thing, Stafford, to compare him to Higbee, Stafford has 23 touchdown passes. Jared Goff has 8. He didn't throw one today, did he? He had 8 coming into the game. I don't think he threw one today. Maybe he did. I don't know. He has 8 or 9.
I'll look, but I don't think he did.
They had 2 rushing touchdowns from
right.
Jefferson and Godwin.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah. Ridiculous.
Godwin, Buke.
Yeah, so that's a big problem for Hockenson. But if you have Hockenson, I can't imagine you're dropping him. But are you getting a second tight end on your team if Dan Arnold or Conklin or somebody like that is available?
Sure. Hunter Henry could be available. You can go and find another tight end and then really think about what you want to do there. And I honestly, in a non-PPR league, a small 10-team league, he's droppable.
Okay.
That makes me nervous because I mean, we're seeing all these tight ends have bad games like this. And I
Yeah,
just feel
but
like he's probably going to go 6 for 60 next week and be a number 7 tight end.
which is fine in PPR, but in those smaller non-PPR leagues, I don't know if you're losing that much sleep over a 6 for 60 game.
Yeah.
And Emmanuel Sanders, is he droppable?
He's droppable. This is a game where Josh Allen threw for 336, I think, maybe even more. And he's just, I don't know. He can make plays, but he hasn't made any in a while. I don't know if I'll ever feel confident starting him as anything more than a bye week replacement.
Schrager telling me that Emmanuel Sanders had 2 20-plus yard pass plays called back on penalties.
Mm-hmm.
Even if he did, it wouldn't have been that great of a game. Well, I mean, it would have been fine. But he's obviously struggling. And they definitely I watched a lot of this game. He was kind of surgical. Not a lot downfield, but just really
not a lot downfield. Do you know how many passes he threw 11-plus yards downfield?
How many?
13.
How many passes?
Completing 9 for 271 and 2 touchdowns.
So downfield, I guess, can be defined differently. I would call them intermediate throws.
Okay, so what do you want to see? 16 yards?
It doesn't matter. I'm saying it wasn't the Emmanuel Sanders type game. He was very accurate. Josh Allen, he was kind of
Josh Allen led everybody on passes of 16-plus air yards with 10 attempts, 7 catches, 244 yards.
Every one of my DFS lineups I played with Josh Allen this week, and I got ripped off because it was everybody that played him did. He was phenomenal. He was the best quarterback this week, and they scored 3 rushing touchdowns like inside the 5-yard line.
Mm-hmm.
Curious, how many what was his longest completed air yards? Do you know? Did he have like a bomb? Because I don't remember him having one of those.
He threw one down the sideline to Diggs.
Diggs was wide open.
Kind of stumbled on the left sideline. I would guess that one was 25 or 30.
There was one for 57 yards to Diggs.
Yeah, but that was a lot after the catch.
There was was it?
Yes.
Maybe half.
No, it says, hold on. Deep left to Diggs for 57 yards, deep middle to Gabriel Davis for 49 yards.
Oh, that was a big one. Yeah, that was a big play.
Deep right to Gabriel Davis for 36. I don't know why we're talking about this.
Yeah, I don't either.
What the hell?
Mike Williams, what do you do?
Dude, last week, 3 targets inside of the 15-yard line, 2 inside of the 5. They tried to get him going. He couldn't do it. This week, he had a target. He had 2 targets inside of the 10. The first one he caught on a slant, but he couldn't push his way into the end zone. The second one should have been a touchdown. It went off of his bicep. Yeah, he kind of not alligator armed it, but he didn't do a great job catching it.
It's hard to catch with your bicep.
It's hard. Yeah, right. You need fingers. Use your fingers, Mike. Goodness gracious.
It wouldn't have been.
So 4 straight games of really lean numbers.
Also, clear winner of the Tyler Lockett Dalton Schultz trade.
Technically, he's the winner so far.
Yeah, so Heath traded Lockett. Heath traded Mike Williams for Lockett and Schultz. So, good job so far. Good, very exciting trade so far. Okay, the almost touchdowns were pretty interesting in this game. David Njoku, in my notes, I wrote he pathetically had a touchdown catch knocked out of his hands. That was ridiculous. Just hang on to that. Austin Hooper caught a touchdown 2 plays later. Najee Harris had a touchdown called back on a hold. Ray McLeod actually had a pretty big game for the Steelers, and it could have been better. He was wide open in the end zone, and Mason Rudolph just threw like a dart into the ground. Dawson Knox dropped a touchdown. He got crushed. Dalton Schultz had an almost touchdown. Traquan Smith nearly got his feet in bounds, but didn't. Dan Arnold actually.
Smith was close on a couple of touchdowns.
Yeah, and Dan Arnold doesn't have a touchdown yet this year, I don't think, at least not with Jacksonville, and he almost did. He had yards short. Christian McCaffrey
conversion.
Yes, he did. Christian McCaffrey just kept flirting with touchdowns, didn't quite get one.
I think Javonte Williams was tackled 4 or 5 times inside the 5-yard line.
And he had a touchdown called back and hold.
Yep.
He looks like he's ready. Next week is Javonte Williams week. I'm
calling it
100%. Let's see. That was it. We covered the rest. Oh,
it's not going to be next week. It's not going to be next week for Javonte. Sorry.
Oh, he's going to buy. That's right.
Yeah, that's why.
Quez Watkins dropped a beautiful pass to Jalen Hurts. Hurts
right at the end of the half.
Massive game if Watkins hangs on to that. That would have been like a 29-point game probably. Maybe even 30 for Hurts. Okay, Heath, we're going to the game.
How
Yeah.
about 4th and goal? And it would have been a garbage time touchdown, but Bridgewater has Tim Patrick wide open in the back of the end zone. And he overthrows him.
Yeah. Oh, that was really bad, actually. That wasn't even close.
No.
Oh, deep shot, Tyreek. And what do you think? Of course it's incomplete. Dallas 43, Atlanta 3, Heath. Let's go.
Dalton Schultz is droppable.
I'm pretty close to believing that. If I've got another tight end that I like better than Dalton Schultz at this point, I don't mind dropping him.
Only 2 targets.
Yeah, we're repeating first half of week 1, and his target rate was going down over the past 3 games.
Who you dropping first, Mike Davis or Dalton Schultz?
I think I'm going to drop the tight end before the running back, but both of them can be kicked to the curb.
Yeah.
Interested in Wayne Gallman?
No, not yet. I bet he matters toward the end of the year, but I mean, maybe sooner than that. Maybe they saw something in Gallman this week in garbage time that they'll give him a chance on. So let's call it super deep leagues. Gallman should be stashed.
All right. Kyle Pitts, 60 yards on 7 targets, but he led the team in receiving by a long, long way. Only a receiver with more than 22 yards, and he had 50% of Matt Ryan's passing totals in this game. So I'm guessing we're not that down on Kyle Pitts after this game.
Nope.
Right. 10, and he leads the team in receiving yards and receptions this year. But there's circumstances with that.
Tennessee 23, New Orleans 21.
Oh, what a gross game. Believe it or not, Adam Troutman is the #1 streamer for week 11.
Does he have the Eagles? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good matchup for him. He's been getting a lot of targets. It's 2 straight weeks now where he's had
3 straight weeks, at least 6, I think.
Okay, so yeah, PPR leagues, he's definitely up there.
Are you going to start Adam Troutman over T.J. Hockenson next week, Dave?
No.
I'll look into it. My guess is I won't follow through on that. But starting him over Dalton Schultz.
Buy or sell. Trevor Simeon's just keeping this job, and we can drop Taysom Hill.
I'm kind of buying it.
I mean, this is probably I might try to hold for 1 more week because like they've lost a couple games now. Even if they make the change before Buffalo, you're not going to want to start him against Buffalo. So I might try to hold him on at least till we find out for sure that he's not starting against Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm. All right, so Simeon scores 23 fantasy points. Mark Ingram has a nice game with 4 catches, over 100 yards. He is now the all-time leading rusher in Saints history.
Cool.
Deontay Harris, 84 yards. Traquan Smith.
But still not playing a ton.
Deontay?
Yeah, like I'd like to see what his numbers would look like if he plays 70% of the snaps. Well, if he plays 50% of the snaps, because remember, a lot of their snaps are runs anyway.
Well, look, all these receivers are available. Harris, Traquan, Callaway. They've all done something recently. Do you want to pick them up? And if so, who's your favorite?
Do not.
Okay.
Deepest of leagues?
Deepest of leagues. I think I'm going to go Harris.
I think I might too.
I don't know. I think we go Traquan.
I think my answer was right.
Yeah, all right. Look, Philadelphia, obviously, it doesn't seem like a very good matchup for wide receivers. And then Buffalo the following week. So it's not too.
So here's the problem with Harris is that he ran 19 routes and Simeon and Taysom Hill combined for 36 pass attempts. So when his route number equals their pass attempt number, that's when I'll be super excited about Deontay Harris. And it could happen soon because he's being productive. He's doing good things in the offense. He's really fast.
He's exceptional in PPRR leagues. Very, very good in points per route run, but not as good in points per reception.
Half PPRR leagues, not quite as good either. So what do you think about the Titans running backs? Is there any reason to hang on to Adrian Peterson? He is 83% rostered.
Bye-week replacement running back. I think you can say the same thing about Foreman, although there's kind of some decent intrigue with Foreman just because he looks better than Peterson and he looks better than McNichols.
And who would you rather have? Peterson? Would you drop Peterson for Deontay Foreman?
I think as long as I'm not starting either one of them and I'm just stashing to see what happens, it's Foreman.
And are we concerned about AJ Brown? 1 catch on 4
A
targets.
little bit. Well,
A little
he
bit if
got
I'm
beat
starting
up
him.
in the game. What'd you
He's
say,
all-
Heath?
I'm concerned, but I'm not sitting him. So
Buffalo 45, Jets 17.
believe it or not, Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs are the only Bills you should actually start with confidence.
Yeah.
Oh,
no.
yeah.
No. I'm still going to be okay starting Dawson Knox. At least for one more
Is
week.
he okay?
I'm assuming he is.
He took a big hit in the back of the end zone. I don't remember. I didn't see if he came back in or not.
I can check.
He only got 1 target, so I don't know if I'd feel better if he didn't come back in the game or if he did.
Now, I'm curious about that play in the end zone because I had him as having 1 target, but that was definitely his 2nd target of the game. So there may have been a
It was
penalty.
a penalized play. It might not have counted.
I believe it was a penalized play.
All right, that makes sense. So he got beat up.
Played
on
45 snaps, and his last snap was Singletary's touchdown run with 6 minutes to play in the 4th quarter.
Okay, so that was after the big hit.
Yep.
So I don't know. Again, I don't know if that makes me feel better or worse about him next week. If he just played the entire game and earned 1 target.
Well, give him 2. Let's give him 2. Come on, give him credit. So
I'm not counting all the other penalized plays in the NFL this week.
yeah,
so.
well, we're talking about Dawson Knox. Well, next week is Indianapolis, then at New Orleans, then New England. Yeah, it's I don't know. Dan Arnold, Tyler Conklin, Dawson Knox.
Arnold for sure for me.
Just the problem.
Not sure if I'm ready to say that.
You know the problem that I have though, Heath. You know where I'm going with this, right?
Trevor Lawrence doesn't throw enough touchdown passes, so Dan Arnold's never going to score touchdowns.
Well, Trevor Lawrence has thrown 5 touchdowns since week 1. 5.
Right.
It's a problem. I mean, I would start.
I'm
Arnold
not saying that I think Dan Arnold's going to be a top 6 tight end. I just never thought Dawson Knox was.
Yeah, but it's just that's when Allen's so good. Knox can just get those touchdowns. But okay, well, how about the other side? How about
you get 1 target?
But doesn't Knox have like 3 and 4 catch potential?
Absolutely. 100%.
So, and how much? And I know that Arnold has more potential than that in terms of catches, but I think Knox has a pretty considerable edge on touchdown potential from game to game.
And Arnold would have a much higher yardage potential.
Sure.
Okay, let's go to the other side of the ball here. Michael Carter, 16 carries, 39 yards, and a touchdown, 4 catches for 43 yards. So he comes through with a good game for you with about 80 total yards, a touchdown, and what did he probably have, like 18 PPR points or something like that? So it worked. Michael Carter, good game against the Bills, and dominated the carries. Dominated 16 of 22 running back carries for Michael Carter. So
50% of the snaps, though. He's going backwards in snap rate.
But he's going forwards in running back role.
I wonder if that has anything I know he played some late for sure, but I didn't see Tevin Coleman hardly at all until the game was out of hand, and they gave Tevin Coleman, I think, maybe 2 different series. I wonder if that, because Tevin Coleman wasn't playing the past few weeks. I wonder if that had something to do with it.
Jimmy J says Carter gonna beast end of season.
I think he's the 2nd best rookie running back for sure.
Okay. And Ty Johnson had 5 catches. So if Mike White starts again and you're desperate for a PPR running back, maybe you go to Ty Johnson. They have Miami this week. New England 45. Elijah Moore. Sorry, Elijah Moore. Garbage time touchdown. 51% rostered. Is that too high, too low, or is the porridge just right for Elijah Moore?
Just right.
Yep, just right.
I've got him pretty much everywhere on benches.
Same porridge question for Corey Davis. 5 catches, 93 yards on 7 targets.
What's his percentage?
Oh, I'm sorry. You have to guess.
I guess he's 83%.
No, I'll say lower than that. I will say 70.
66.
Okay.
That's a little low, I think.
They've got the Dolphins and the Texans in their next 2 games. And depending on who their quarterback is, they could go back to Zach Wilson pretty quickly now.
Zach Wilson is very young looking. My goodness.
Yeah.
See him on the sideline. He really looks like a little kid. All right, New England 45, Cleveland 7. Who was that? Who's texting?
That was me.
Who the hell is texting you?
Lots of people. Many
I'm sure he's on
people
a
are
Chiefs
texting me. Believe it or
And-
not, DeAndre Swift is a sell high before the deadline.
No. First of all, we're on New England and Cleveland.
Wait a minute. DeAndre Swift isn't on the Browns?
Oh, you didn't put a space in between the games, and so I'd scrolled to the right place in the notes.
Yes, I did.
This is the best believe it or not question ever. I'm sorry, wrong game.
Okay.
Mac Jones will be, not is currently, because that's pretty obvious, will be the best quarterback from the 2021 class.
Do not believe it.
No, I don't believe it.
46.8% believed it. 47.1% did not. It's the closest poll we've ever had.
And if we could only get those pansies, those 6.1% that couldn't even muster up a vote.
They're not sure, Adam.
Question. Such a challenging question.
I'm not sure if he will or not. I'm gonna abstain. But I'm curious what everyone else thinks.
So don't vote.
They wanted to see what everybody else thought.
Yeah. I'm still gonna go with Trevor Lawrence.
I think it was kind of tricky how I asked it because it was asked in a way like, how do you define best? The best fantasy football quarterback? The winningest quarterback? Probably. I don't know. This is not just about Mac Jones, who has looked phenomenal for a rookie quarterback, and the way that he has meshed with Josh McDaniels in this system, and just there are times he's not Tom Brady or anything kind of like, but there are times when you see him go through his progressions and running the offense, and it just looks like the Patriots of the last 20 years, and he's just doing exactly the things that he's supposed to do. And then the other side of that is Trevor Lawrence just looks broken.
Yeah.
And that happens to great college quarterbacks in terrible situations. And this is one of the worst situations a college quarterback could be in.
Well, they're going to run for 250 and throw for 250 every week or whatever.
If I had to pick one, it would be Justin Fields. But
maybe, yeah, that's a good guess or a good answer too.
I still feel like Lawrence has a lot left to give, and I'm not ready to judge him based on 9.
But we should talk about Mac Jones. It's unfair to him to talk about.
Right. Like he's really surrounded by a bunch of poo. And I
Mac
think
Jones?
when he's no.
Yeah. Who?
Mac Jones doing a Nelson Aguilar and Kendrick Bourne and Jakobi Meyers.
Yeah, Mac Jones, like he has
So he's making those guys good, and that's the sign of a great quarterback for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Lawrence, I just feel like he's just way too uncomfortable when he plays right now.
Yeah.
I think once he gets comfortable, he will be very dangerous and very good. And I think Fields will be better too.
Where are we on Jarvis Landry? 82% rostered. He had 4 catches for 26 yards. His yards in his last 4 games, 37, 65, 11, and 26. He does not have a touchdown this year. Oh, not a receiving touchdown this year. Where are we on Landry? Droppable?
He's droppable, certainly in non-PPR leagues. And in half and full PPR leagues, he's a bench receiver.
And would you drop Jarvis Landry for Elijah Moore?
Yes.
I'd rather have Elijah Moore on my bench for sure.
Okay. Rhamondre Stevenson, we already discussed. Hunter Henry, 77.
Landry for him too.
Keep scoring. I think that's pretty much it from this game. Okay. Detroit 16, Pittsburgh 16.
DeAndre Swift is a deadline deal sell high.
That's an interesting comment coming from you. I do not wish to buy that.
I don't know why people are so down on DeAndre Swift. It's weird. He's gotten no credit because he gets his garbage. He Swifts all the time. He gets his garbage time.
And he didn't do that in this game. He was phenomenal in the first half of the game and then killed all of his efficiency in the second half. I think he was averaging 6 yards per carry on his first 18 touches and 2 on his last 18.
I wish I had known that. I would have tweeted that.
Yes. That's why he doesn't. I think that's another reason, though, that a certain segment of the population doesn't like him. He averages like 3.6 yards per carry. That's a bad running back, Adam.
Well, it's an inefficient running back. It's not a bad running back necessarily. I mean, Najee Harris, nobody has a problem with Najee Harris. He's averaging like 3.7 coming into the game.
Right.
Like that.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just, it might be better for your heart because it does. It's a hard thing cheering for DeAndre Swift each week.
Well,
But if he
I
gives
see
you
your
results, then what's to complain about?
I see your point about if the catches aren't there, you're not going to get 33 carries a game. But I can't imagine. I just think that they're related. They had their best game of the year. Basically, they tied and they played full overtime. But if they're losing, which they're going to be most weeks, he's going to get more than 3 catches, and they're going to be for more than 5 yards.
And I do think it's important for the sake of Dan Campbell to recognize, yes, they're 0-8-1, and yes, they're terrible, and maybe they're even the worst team in the league. But they've lost on a field goal that bounced off the crossbar. They've lost on Justin Tucker's NFL record-breaking long field goal. And they just tied in a game where they had a 40-yarder to win it. And I think he maybe hit the ground before he hit the ball. It was one of the ugliest kicks I've ever seen.
Yeah. So what's our conclusion here? Sell high on DeAndre Swift or ride it out?
I'm not sure if you're going to get what the definition of sell high is on him. You'll get something good in trade for him. I think people will view him as a top 12-ish fantasy running back. Certainly more so. You'll get top 12 value in full PPR. But I don't know if I want to.
Okay, would you rather have Nick Chubb or DeAndre Swift in PPR rest of season?
Swift.
Would you rather have DeAndre Swift or
here's the thing. Would you rather have DeAndre Swift or David Montgomery and a number 2 wide receiver? I think you can get David Montgomery and a good player for Swift.
I'd probably take that because I'm pretty high on David Montgomery.
Right. So if you're going to do it, I think that's maybe the place you try to go.
So who am I getting with David Montgomery?
Mike Williams.
Am I getting
Mike Williams or Tyler Lockett?
Sure. I think I prefer Lockett over Williams, but sure.
All right, let's go to Indianapolis 23. I don't think there's much to talk about with Pittsburgh here. Can't take much away from
Najee's good. DeAndre Johnson's good. James Washington had a good game. Ben will be back next week. Freiermuth, meh.
Colts 23, Jacksonville 17.
T.Y. Hilton actually is a little bit of a problem for Michael Pittman.
I guess I believe it a little bit.
The only 2 games they've played together where they both played the whole game, where Hilton played the whole game because Pittman's been fine. His target share has not been the same.
Wasn't really true in the second because you're not counting one game.
I'm not counting the game that Hilton left early.
But if you look at the snap share of that game, let me just explain. You're not wrong. Hilton played 50% of the snaps basically in both of the previous 2 games. So he may have left one of those early, but he played basically the same snap share. And that is a problem because he'll play more than 50% of the snap. I don't know, Dave, you have his snap count this week for
Sure.
T.Y. Hilton? So that is
give me 30 seconds.
That is interesting. Really just not a good game for Carson Wentz. I mean, 7 fantasy points against freaking Jacksonville. Horrible stuff here.
Well, it was a weird game. Like, I don't know what the time of possession was in this one, but it was a really weird game script because they had was it a blocked punt?
Yeah, for a touchdown. It was a fairly even time of possession.
Then they did go like 6 possessions in a row with a punt, though, I think. Maybe Jacksonville's defense isn't terrible.
Maybe.
I think they were terrible to start the game. I think the first 2 drives of the game, they were miserable. And then they really started to buckle down at that. And then they started to struggle again later in the second half. 63% of the snaps for T.Y. Hilton.
Okay. All right. Well, Pittman or Thielen rest of season?
Pittman.
I will go Pittman in PPR, Thielen, and none. All
right. One thing to keep in mind, the Colts still have a bye, and they have Buffalo next week, and they have New England later. So it might be, and they have Las Vegas, who's top 5 against wide receivers. I don't know if they will be after Sunday night, but it's not a great schedule when you factor in the bye for Michael Pittman. Washington 29, Tampa Bay 9. Sorry, is there anything I'm forgetting here? I don't think so. Because I mean, all right, is there any reason to have a Jacksonville wide receiver? Agnew had the 66-yard rushing touchdown, but he didn't have a catch. And Marvin Jones, can't trust him anymore. I mean, do you have any reason to stick with these guys?
Not really. They're bye week guys that I would expect to find on the waiver wire.
Kind of in the Jarvis Landry range.
Washington 29, Tampa Bay 19.
I'm kind of nervous about Mike Evans again.
I believe that. Wait, are you saying you, Heath?
Yes.
I believe that you are. Yeah. I don't know if that was the question you were trying to ask, but I believe that.
No, that's what I went with there.
Believe it or not, we should be nervous about Mike Evans. Is that what we're trying to say?
Well, I am. you got that one right.
How come? How come?
Yeah, why?
Just because he's so, like, I know he's been doing it for quite a while now with Brady, but he's just so dependent on touchdowns. I don't know that he's all that much different from Adam Thielen.
He's not always so dependent on touchdowns. This was a weird game. But last week or 2 weeks ago was Lattimore. He never does well against him. Two catches, 62 yards, and a touchdown on 3 targets. I couldn't believe this. I was stunned, but I'm not really that worried. He does have 4 games with 4 games with fewer than 50 yards. Go ahead, Dave.
And he has, I think this is 3 of his last 4 games with 4 targets or fewer.
Go ahead, Dave.
Yes, that's correct. There must have been something in the way that Washington was playing their defense that you couldn't see on TV, because every throw from Brady was basically a check down until they lulled them into the pass to Evans. You want to talk about throws that went 11 plus downfield? I'm going to look it up for Brady. How many throws did he make that went 11 plus yards in the air? 8. And he was 3 of 8 for 84 yards in the touchdown.
Okay. So, and also time of possession here, because Tampa Bay had the ball for less than 21 minutes or fewer than 21 minutes in this game.
I'm starting Mike Evans, man. There are so many pitfalls at wide receiver everywhere else. If the worst thing that we can say about Mike Evans is, well, he scores a lot of touchdowns and he has 5 in his last 3 games, I'm totally okay with him being in my lineup every week.
Chris Godwin, 7 catches, 57 yards. Not a great game, but usable. Cameron Brate caught a touchdown. And what do we think about Terry Stinkin' McLaurin? This was actually, I think, his 4th best game of the year. And it was 6 catches for 59 yards. So he's had 5 games with fewer than 11 fantasy points. He's had 3 massive games with 107 or more yards and a touchdown. And then this game is closer to the bad ones, obviously. 6 catches for 59 yards. But it's really frustrating. You put him in your lineup and you get excited, and then he's a letdown, Terry McLaurin.
It's just boomer bust to the extreme. Is he really that different from Tyler Lockett? When you think about it, his best games are amazing games. He helps you win your weeks, and that's why
he was supposed to be, though. You know, Tyler Lockett has a history of that,
right? So he was supposed to be more consistent. That was with the expectation that Ryan Fitzpatrick was going to be his quarterback for the year. That has been the case. Heineke is extremely streaky. Touchdown Raiders.
Yeah.
Renfro. Heath will kind of like that one.
Where is he?
Against his Chiefs.
Where'd you go?
Right here. He's right there.
Where'd you go?
I'm having some connectivity issues.
You okay? You need to go?
I am okay. Yes.
All right. How do you feel about the Renfro touchdown?
Run for a touchdown.
No, a Renfro touchdown.
Renfro touchdown.
That's good. Hunter Renfro is good. I like it when he scores touchdowns.
I knew you'd like it.
I have him on a lot of my fantasy teams.
This is a huge game. I can't wait to finish watching it. Okay, we got the late games now. Let's go.
Adam's way of saying, shut up, guys. Let's go.
Carolina 34, Arizona 10.
I mean, I'm just going to ask you guys, because you asked me, but this was my believe it or not for the article. So Cam Newton's going to be fantasy relevant in 1 QB leagues.
I don't believe that he will be consistently relevant in 1 QB leagues, but there will be a couple of weeks where we will recommend him as at least a streaming tight end. Quarterback, not tight end. Duh.
Yeah, I think borderline. You're starting to see more need for streaming, I guess, at quarterback. Well,
and the streamers have been so good every time we pick them.
What's going on here?
No, but that's the point of streaming is you're taking a chance. Sometimes they hit, sometimes they don't.
So what do you think about DJ Moore?
I think you're in trouble if you've got DJ Moore.
I don't yet. I think Cam Newton's a better passer than PJ Walker, and Cam threw a deep shot to DJ Moore. Now, if you want to be concerned, he threw a touchdown to Robbie Anderson, and then he took a post-game selfie with him during the post-game conference. And so if they have breakfast tomorrow, we're going to know that Robbie Anderson is the guy.
Most added player.
How about just a quick reminder that DJ Moore doesn't get a lot of red zone targets. He hasn't scored in 6 games. He hasn't had 100 yards in 6 games. He hasn't had 80 yards in 6 games. And he's had 4 or fewer catches in each of his last 3 games. And now Cam Newton's his quarterback. And Cam might be a better passer than he was last year with New England. But I don't know if he's any better of a passer than he was 3 years ago or something like that. I can't get behind DJ Moore anymore.
I get that. I will say that Cam Newton as a passer last year was better than PJ Walker's ever been. And Cam Newton as a passer last year would have been the best year of passing of Sam Darnold's career.
Philadelphia 30, Denver 13.
Believe it or not, week 12 is Javonte Williams week.
Hey.
No, I think it really is.
From your lips to Vic Fangio's old hairy ears.
He gets the Chargers run defense. They'll be coming off a bye. The offensive line will be healthy. We saw Michael Carter's participation shoot up coming off the bye. Week 12 is, and there's still time. There's still time to go acquire Javonte Williams. You could have let someone else suffer through all the do I, don't I, and you're going to get prime Javonte Williams in the fantasy playoffs.
I don't believe that. Do you, or you were just, I can't tell if that was part of your believe it or not, or if that was really your answer.
I sold it pretty well, didn't I?
You did. You did really well.
I don't know. He's got the Raiders and the Chargers in the semifinals and the finals. I do. I think you should at least go test the water. Can you get him for flex price?
I get where you're coming from on this, and he did play 5 more snaps than Melvin Gordon this week. I want to say that this is the first time in a month he's played more snaps than Melvin Gordon. And Melvin fumbled, but I just think that as long as Melvin Gordon is healthy, you're going to see 2 running backs in very similar roles in this offense.
You know who else fumbled today, by the way? Completely forgot to mention it. Devin Singletary fumbled. And that is, I don't know, 6th fumble this year, something like that. So maybe that means something. Okay. What are we doing with the Broncos wide receivers going into their bye? Do we need to hold on to Judy or Sutton or Patrick?
I think the only one that you can feel okay holding on to is Judy. And if I saw him on my waiver wire, I would pick him up. But it's with the idea that he's a number 3 receiver.
We've also talked about like 10 receivers on this show. They're rostered in 60% of leagues that are droppable. And there aren't that many people to go pick up off the waiver wire. So
how do you pass up on 9 targets?
Judy, there's no way I drop. But
no, I'm not dropping Judy at all. I'm saying I'm not so sure I'm going to drop Sutton because I dropped Landry before I dropped Sutton, and I dropped Marvin Jones, and I dropped Laviska Shenault. And there's a lot of guys that I dropped before I dropped Sutton that are rostered in a lot of leagues.
How many teams are on bye this week?
2 next week.
Okay. So
week 11.
There might not be as much of a roster crunch in week 11 like there was in week 10 or certainly in the bye NATO week. So you probably won't see Sutton on the waiver wire in a ton of leagues, but a lot of people are going to see what he's done ever since Judy came back, and they will move on to an Elijah Moore. They will definitely move on to Rhamondre Stevenson, et cetera, et cetera. He's droppable.
Buy or sell. If Dallas Goedert is out, Quez Watkins is a decent ad.
No.
I wouldn't drop most of the guys we've talked about dropping for him. So
Minnesota 27, Chargers 20.
Believe it or not, if Justin Herbert is your starting quarterback, you might want to find a streamer for next week.
Next week, he has the Pittsburgh Steelers.
In a primetime game.
Ooh, Monday or Sunday?
It is on...
Or Thursday.
It is not on Thursday. It is Sunday Night Football.
Oh, okay.
In LA.
So, what's your answer, Dave?
I'd have to consider it. I really would.
16 or fewer fantasy.
So weird though.
3 of his last 4 games for Justin Herbert. He is a struggling. Yeah, I think so.
Some of it's on him. Some of it's on him, but some of it, like we talked about the Mike Williams almost touchdown. Like some of it's on his teammates too.
His line's not good. He's under pressure a lot.
Yeah, that line is starting to fall apart a little.
It's tough. I like him, but don't have a ton of confidence. Pittsburgh, Denver, Cincinnati in his next 3 games. It's not like those are easy matchups. I don't know if there's much else to say about Mike Williams. Keenan Allen is Keenan Allen again. Austin Eckler's been a little disappointing lately. His PPR fantasy points in his last 4 games, 8, 24, which is great. 10 and 14. I don't think he'd do anything about it, but he's been a little disappointing.
No, you'll
Did
still
you
start
really
him.
enjoy Larry Roundtree's touchdown celebration? Speaking of Austin Eckler.
Oh, that was so cool.
Yes.
Yeah, very good. Okay, I think that's basically it for this game. I feel like as we're getting deeper into the season, we know the players that we have to talk about and the ones we don't. And it was nice to see the squeaky crickets for Justin Jefferson. I really think, this game I watched a ton of. Justin Jefferson basically won them the game. He made every big play for them. He drew I think he drew 2 penalties, and he had 143 yards. He was awesome in this game.
The old 1-4-3.
I do 1-4-3 to Justin Jefferson. Green Bay 17. For those of you who didn't have beepers, you don't know what we're talking about. Green Bay
Or no style governale.
Or what?
Nothing.
You guys had beepers?
I didn't, but my siblings did. And you would beep someone 1-4-3. It meant I love you.
Never had a beeper.
Dave, did you have a beeper?
No, I wasn't cool enough to have a beeper. I don't remember your brother having a beeper.
My sister definitely had a beeper. I don't know that I think my brother had a beeper.
I don't think he do. Not when
you know anything about my brother. Leave him out of this.
I know plenty.
Green Bay 17, Seattle 0.
A.J. Dillon is a top 5 running back if Aaron Jones misses time.
So after the game, they said that Jones has a sprained MCL, MRI coming. If he's going to miss a couple of weeks, I would imagine, and in those games, A.J. Dillon should be outstanding.
I do not believe it, Heath. I think top 5 is too low.
Wow.
He's got the possibility to have such a big role, and he looks really like the closest thing to Derrick Henry. He falls forward on almost every run, it seems. That's an exaggeration.
Tons of tackles.
Yeah, I think he's just going to be freaking dynamite. I'm
so
know
how many yards after catch yards after contact he had?
Yes.
All right, give me 30 seconds.
Okay, so while you look that up, let's talk about. Oh gosh, I know Heath is worried about Russell Wilson. Doesn't seem to want to give him the benefit of the doubt, just shaking off the rust. But let me ask you about their running backs. Carson.
I don't want anything to do with their running backs.
Not Chris Carson?
I don't feel confident that Chris Carson's going to come back to a workhorse role or that he's going to be able to hold up to it.
Unless they really wait until he's
this is a chronic neck issue. It's not something that's going to go away, I don't think.
But you have to roster him, right? Let's just to be clear. There's no way you can leave him on the waiver wire or anything.
You can leave him on your bench if you'd like to, if that makes you feel good.
Well, if he comes out and has one good game, then you're going to feel confident in starting Chris Carson.
If he comes out and has one good game, then I'm going to start Chris Carson. If he has 2 good games, then I would feel confident starting Chris Carson.
Fine. Chris Carson should be close to 100% rostered. Buy or sell. And 20% started.
He might be unrosterable in 8-team leagues. He deserves to be rostered in 10-team plus.
Look at these comments.
At least for now.
Dookie Russ.
He was Dookie. A.J. Dillon averaged 31.5 yards after catch per reception. That's pretty good. And then carrying the football.
Oh, he had that one big play.
Yeah, he only had 2.76 yards after contact per rush.
But when you watched him, he gets hit and then he falls forward a lot. His touchdown was like that. He's obviously going to be really good.
We're on to week 11.
We're out of here, everybody. Thanks so much for watching and listening. We'll talk to you tomorrow with a fresh episode of Fantasy Football Today. See you.